Well, quick update, guys. We finally hit our 500-mile break-in. It's about 9:30 in the morning here now. Plus the weather's kind of so played with it a little bit, but didn't really get to stretch the car's legs just yet. Hopefully later tonight, maybe, if the weather isn't persistent, we can kind of mess around, and that's where this video will pick up. So naturally, weather, what can you do? But not a big deal, and we'll kind of see what it's all about. All right, guys, well, we're back in the Corolla. As you can see, give it a second here. There's a car coming, but as you can see, the weather today is much nicer. We had to cut things short yesterday when we were trying to do some testing after break-in. Unfortunately, the weather was just really not great. Kind of got a little bit of a thunderstorm of some sort that came through, and basically it was raining all day from like 9:30 in the morning all the way until about 10 o'clock at night. So needless to say, today is looking much better. So we're back in the Corolla, and we're finally going to kind of do some testing on camera, show you guys what it's like with the turbo upgrade and everything. And yeah, so first order of business, of course, is getting the car warmed up. We're going to take a trip to a local mountain and kind of just see what the car can do there. Obviously, as you go higher up in elevation, you run into lower peak boost and kind of lower power generally. So there are some stop signs on the way there where maybe if there isn't a bunch of traffic, we can kind of do some testing. So either way, should be a good time. Yeah, let's see how it goes. Break-in period. With the clutch, I'm still definitely getting used to. I've been grannying the car this whole time, and now I'm not having to do that, but kind of still just slowly figuring things out. So bear with me a little bit there. I'm sure we'll get the hang of it, but there's a little bit of a learning curve to it. The setup I have now is a single mass flywheel instead of a dual mass, which is what the car has stock. And then an X clutch in combination with that, and it's pretty cool. There's some interesting harmonics at low speeds, and they kind of tell you that on the packaging as a warning that it's a performance clutch, it's going to be a little bit of a trade-off, blah blah blah. The feel, I think, is really good, but it is slightly noisy at lower RPMs, and that's really not an issue for me. Maybe someone pickier than I am might have an issue, but for me, it's like, if we're doing all this to the car, I expect it to be compromised to an extent, and I mean, I'm largely okay with that, so really not worried. Is all warmed up now, so we are going to be good to go when we get to the mountain. Just a little bit of a drive there, nothing too crazy. I'm super lucky to have something like I do so close to home. It's always a fun place to go when I want to drive and maybe not have to worry so much about a bunch of other people, and as long as you're safe, it's really not an issue. My only peeve, of course, with people driving when you're going up something like carving or whatever, is just making sure that you're not double lining or yellow lining, whatever the real phrase is. It's just kind of asinine, and it's a kind of a common sense thing, you know, like if you're going into a blind corner, stay in your lane, dude. See it far too often where people don't do it, and it's such a simple thing. It just really sucks to see that it happens so often. But yeah, during the 500-mile period, the car has been pretty solid. We have gotten some intermittent lean codes, but it's super sporadic. I'm still trying to nail down root cause. I think it's just, you know, a finicky thing with the tune and maybe some ECU learning as well. I haven't gotten a lean code in, you know, over 200 miles now. So that's good to see. But when it did happen, you know, it was like one time I was going over a speed bump and I was going a little slower than I would have liked, and I almost stalled, so, you know, that kind of made sense to me. There was another time where the car was just idling in a parking lot, and I was trying to charge the AC, and I hit the AC button to turn it on, and that, like, caused a hiccup, and then the lane code happened. So again, it seems super intermittent, and I haven't been able to replicate it on my own from doing similar things, like turning the AC on and off at idle and stuff. Like, you know, it hasn't been repeatable per se yet, but knock on wood, you know, it seems like the interval has increased, and hopefully, you know, it kind of works itself out a little bit, since it hasn't been a persistent thing. But if not, we'll go back to the tuner, and, you know, we'll do what we need to do to kind of figure things out. So, not a huge deal. Will we make the arrow? I certainly hope so. Oh yeah, looks like we will. Cool. I'm not going to go crazy right now, because this is going to be a merge. And of course, I want to make sure people can do that safely. Looks like there actually might be a number of people potentially going up the mountain. There are a couple of neighborhoods along the way where people might stop, but I don't ever count on it. And if there's people, it's not a big deal. You know, I'll find a little pull out, we'll wait a little while, and once the coast is clear, we can do some testing and whatnot. So. Never happens, but it can happen, so. She pulls pretty good. Somewhere over 5,000 feet above sea level now, which is double the height from sea level that we are putting around town. So obviously there's some power losses and whatnot to factor in there, but the way the car drives, right, is very progressive. It's not like a big twin turbo V6 setup, or, you know, a V8 setup even, maybe supercharged, where the torque hits you all at once, right? It's very progressive. 3,500 RPMs or so. That's where you kind of start to see power go down a little bit, and torque comes in a bit earlier. I think you hit peak torque maybe around like 5,000 RPMs or so. I'll probably just put the dyno sheet up in the video, you know, close to where we're at now, so that you guys can take a look for yourselves and see. But the car feels really good. It's super exciting just to have it back, given, as I may have mentioned before, the car was down for like 3 months. You get some nice turbo noises there. Obviously we're in 4th gear, so we're not sitting here trying to go incredibly fast at the moment. Ooh, and we're getting some snow already up on the top of the mountain. Wow. Man, that's kind of crazy. I guess that storm yesterday did enough. Must have been cold enough up here anyway, so. Yeah, temperatures look really good. I'm happy with oil pressure, where it's at. Overall, it's a really solid tune. You can tell the car doesn't have as much punch on the low end. So with the stock setup, there's a little bit of bump in torque right after you kind of get off the line. It's not an incredible amount, but this feels smoother. It feels sort of less visceral in that sense right at the beginning, but it just pulls and pulls at the top end a lot harder, obviously, than the stock car does. Yeah, I mean, this is a dream come true to finally have a car that I've been able to tinker with myself, that I've been able to do a fair bit of pulling apart myself to do head work and the turbo and all that. And the only thing we didn't do ourselves was the clutch, which was just going to be a nightmare. I would have liked to have learned, but I didn't have a shop. I really didn't have much of anything that would have been helpful. I would have had to have gotten, you know, an engine mount probably, or one of those cross beams to keep things held up while I'm trying to decouple the transmission. And, you know, I'm working on the ground, so it just wasn't really in the cards, especially if I wanted to get this thing up and running before my big move to a new city, which, you know, we managed to do. The last test really for this car is going to be on Friday, making the trip up to Phoenix, so that I can finalize some things with the apartment and whatnot. And yeah, so hopefully the car is good on a long kind of road trip like that. I'm sure it'll be fine, but certainly don't want to jinx it, and we'll see how it goes. And if all is well, then yeah, you know, we can kind of certify that the car is 100% good to be my daily driver and do everything I need it to do. So yeah, I think that is it for this video, guys. So appreciate you listening in. Certainly want to make more content with the car in the near term. Definitely want to provide more video kind of on the street, you know, at a safe time, of course, to kind of play with the car, show you guys what it can do, you know, closer to sea level, still a little ways off from sea level, but you know, how it pulls in the city and whatnot. So but it's been a super fun build so far. We got a lot more that we'd like to do, you know, in the next year and a half or so. So, you know, stay tuned, we'll see what happens, and we'll kind of go from there. Thanks for watching.